What if one bullet in the trenches of World War I could have changed everything? It's 1916. A young, unknown Austrian corporal named Adolf Hitler is serving in the German army. He's not a Führer, not a monster, just a failed artist with a sketchbook. It's caught in the mud and chaos of the Great War. Imagine a stray shot finds its mark, and he never leaves that battlefield. History as we know it fractures. Without Hitler, the trajectory of the 20th century is completely rewritten. Let's start with Germany. After World War I, the Weimar Republic was fragile, crippled by the Treaty of Versailles and hyperinflation. It was a breeding ground for extremism. But the Nazi Party, the NSDAP, was just one of many far-right groups. In our timeline, Hitler's charismatic demagoguery and organizational skill transformed it from a fringe beer hall club into a political juggernaut. Without him, it's highly likely the Nazi Party would have remained a footnote in history, fizzling out or being absorbed by other nationalist movements that lacked Hitler's unique, terrifying brand of ambition and strategy. The infamous beer hall putsch of 1923 probably never happens. Or if it does, it's a disorganized mess that's easily forgotten. Hitler never goes to prison, never writes Mein Kampf, and the toxic ideology within it never reaches a mass audience. So, no Hitler, no Nazi Germany. What does this mean for the world? First and foremost, the most horrific event of the 20th century, the Holocaust, is averted. The systematic genocide of 6 million Jews, along with millions of others Romani people, homosexuals, disabled individuals, and political opponents simply does not happen. This alone creates an immeasurably different, better world. European Jewish culture, which was decimated, would continue to thrive and contribute to science, art, and philosophy across the continent. Cities like Warsaw, Vilnius, and Thessaloniki would retain their vibrant Jewish communities. The moral stain of the Holocaust would never mark humanity's conscience. Then there's World War II. The war in Europe was fundamentally Hitler's war. His aggressive expansionist policies, from the remilitarization of the Rhineland to the invasion of Poland, were the direct triggers. Without him, would a major war have been avoided? It's complicated. Tensions still existed in Europe. The Soviet Union under Stalin was expansionist. Imperial Japan was carving out an empire in Asia, and Italy under Mussolini had its own fascist ambitions. Conflict of some kind was probably still on the cards. However, it would have looked completely different. Without a rearmed and aggressive Germany, there's no central driving force for a massive European conflict. France and Britain wouldn't face a monolithic threat on their doorstep. The invasion of Poland, the blitzkrieg across France, the Battle of Britain, none of these events happen as we know them. Perhaps there would be smaller, regional wars. It may be a conflict between the Soviet Union and its neighbors, or continued Japanese aggression in China. But the globe-spanning cataclysm that was World War II, a war that killed over 70 million people, would almost certainly be avoided. Let's trace the dominoes from there. No World War II means no atomic bomb. The Manhattan Project was a direct response to the fear that Nazi Germany would develop a nuclear weapon first. Without that impetus, the immense resources required to split the atom for military purposes would likely not have been allocated. Nuclear physics would still advance, but probably for energy and research, and at a much slower pace. The horrifying shadows of Hiroshima and Nagasaki would never be cast, and the Cold War that followed would be fundamentally different. The Cold War itself was defined by the bipolar struggle between two new superpowers that emerged from the ashes of World War II, the United States and the Soviet Union. Without the war, the U.S. might have remained more isolationist. It was the attack on Pearl Harbor and the subsequent global conflict that transformed America into the world's leading military and economic power. The Soviet Union, on the other hand, might have emerged even stronger in this alternate timeline. Without suffering the catastrophic loss of over 25 million people in the war against Germany, the USSR would have a massive demographic and industrial advantage in Europe. Stalin's ambitions wouldn't have been checked by a powerful, American-backed Western Europe. A red continent might have been a very real possibility, with communism spreading further than it did in our timeline, leading to a different kind of global tension. The map of the world would be unrecognizable. Germany would not be divided. The Berlin Wall would never be built. The State of Israel, established in 1948 in the aftermath of the Holocaust to provide a homeland for the Jewish people, would likely not have been created in the same way or at the same time. The push for its creation was fueled by the genocide, and without it, political will and international consensus might not have existed. This would completely alter the geopolitics of the Middle East for the next 75 years. Colonial empires might have also lasted longer. Britain and France were bankrupted by World War II, which accelerated the decolonization process. Without that drain, they might have held onto their colonies in Africa and Asia for decades longer, delaying independence for many nations. And what about technology? So much of our modern world was born from the crucible of World War II and the Cold War. Jet engines, rockets, radar, computers, and even the internet all have their roots in military research from this period. The space race, which put a man on the moon, was a direct consequence of the superpower rivalry between the US and the USSR. Without that intense existential competition, technological development would have been much, much slower. We might have gotten these things eventually, but our world today would feel decades behind. We might be living in a world without commercial air travel as we know it, without satellites, and without the instant global communication we take for granted. So if that one bullet had found its mark in 1916, we would be living in a world without the Holocaust. In World War II, but also a world where the Soviet Union might dominate Europe, where technology is far less advanced, where the political map is completely alien. It's a powerful reminder of how a single individual, empowered by a broken society, can twist the course of history. The lesson isn't just about one man. It's about the conditions that allow such figures to rise: economic desperation, political instability, and social division. Preventing future monsters means building a world where they can find no fertile ground for their hatred to grow. One person's death might have changed the past, but it's up to all of us to shape a better future. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy exploring these alternate histories, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more what-if scenarios. See you next time.